Welcome to Loaded Talk. I am your Congressman Frank, the third most popular candidate in all the world. And along with me, as always,
What's up, Planet Earth? I'm Bean.
Bean, the Charlie Mobile. So we took a week off here, and we're back. On Friday, we went and saw Killers of the Flower Moon, the new Scorsese movie. It's got DiCaprio in it and De Niro. DiCaprio kills it. I think I think he had an Oscar-worthy performance. You don't even feel like it's DiCaprio. He plays kind of a guy that's a bit not overly intelligent, and he's from kind of the Missouri, Oklahoma area around like World War I times, and but he just, I don't know, he sells it real good. His voice, the way his face is, and everything, it's not young, cute DiCaprio or anything like that. He's just kind of, I don't know, he kills it. He kills it. It's a great movie. I loved it. It's 3.5 hours. It's not short, but good movie. What have you been up to?
Well, isn't he one of those actors or those really good actors that is Oscarless? I think.
Has he not won anything?
I think it's one of those weird situations where everyone's like, he's really good. Why hasn't he?
He may not have won an Oscar yet. I mean, I'm trying to think of what else he would be nominated for, and I can't, because he's done good movies and he's done good work, but a lot of times you feel like you're watching Leonardo DiCaprio. He plays somebody that's like young and attractive and smart, and he's the kind of hero type cat where everyone's just like, man, I'd like to be that guy, whatever it is. I mean, The Departed. Yeah, I don't even know if he got nominated for The Departed.
The Reverend? Was it The Reverend or Reverend?
Oh, yeah.
Where he got like mauled
Yeah.
by a bear.
I'm trying to remember if I saw that, but yeah.
That was such a gruesome scene.
Was it? Yeah, I don't think I saw it. I didn't see it. No, I remember that coming out. I got to see that movie. But yeah, in this one, though, I don't know. It's a different character, and I don't know. I think he nailed it. Especially more when if you are ever around kind of roughneck type cats from that Missouri to Oklahoma area. I mean, the accents and the mannerisms and all that kind of stuff. You look at them like, I know this. I've seen this. This is good. This is good. So that's a little happiness in the world. Which of course it's been slow news lately. Not a lot has been going on. Did you hear about something going on in Israel?
Yeah, I think I heard through a little birdie whispered in my ear.
Yeah, I don't know. There's something going on. No, so we touched on it last time, and over the last 2 weeks, things have not settled down. It's I'm always careful. I try to be careful about, wartime propaganda. The U.S. is very guilty of it all the time. I'm sure Israel's guilty of it, and I know that Hamas is guilty of it. But at the same time, as these 2 weeks have gone on, this was a monstrous attack. It's not unprovoked in that, of course, there's been a tension in the area for a long time, and there's obviously unhappiness about the situation with Gaza. Whether is it an independent? It's been independent for this many years, but it's still technically part of Israel, but it's not. And is it an apartheid state? Is it is it? Oh no! Here, we'll just give you this land. It's your land now, just like you wanted. And I think the truth is always somewhere in between. But yeah, so we watched some of those clips of how they went in. But there, as we showed the pictures that last time of the kidnapped women, at this point, there has been confirmation of lots of rape and murder outside of military type people, it's, it's hard to, it's hard not to say that, like, Hamas is totally in the wrong for this. They invaded and they terrorized and they murdered. And I don't know, it's why news stories come out all the time. They're just more horrendous. I don't know, what are some of your thoughts of the conflict?
I mean, obviously, it's the worst thing to hear and witness. Sometimes I actually just have to turn it off. But at the same time, it's just like, okay, here we are again, with somebody stirring the pot. But it's like, okay, who's holding on to the ladle stirring?
Yeah. Well, and according to, I didn't pull it up. Well, do I have it in my thing? There was this interview on, I think it was like French television, something like that. And it was one of the Hamas leadership. And they came out and they were just like, oh, basically post 9/11, we pretended to like not be involved in the jihad movement. And we were just chilling. It's like, but the whole time we were planning this, the whole time, laying low. Actually, I do have something.
Didn't they say they've been planning this for 2 years?
Yeah, something like that. But probably longer than that, but at least 2 years. And then like, I know that, and then it's been rumored that Iran has been involved in the planning since about May, which is when it was announced we were going to release their $6 billion.
Oh.
Only for humanitarian purposes. They can't spend it on anything that's not humanitarian. And they go, no, we can see what it's spent on. We can see it wasn't spent on anything else. And it's like, okay, what about the money you don't watch? Because now they don't need that for food or whatever. They've got this other money they can spend knowing they got $6 billion in the bank coming back. Like, have you watched that? And they're like, listen, guys, listen. Let's, the Biden administration has like quietly been trying to talk to Qatar and be like, hey, maybe you can just like kind of freeze that money, like unofficially. Just don't let them have it. Just don't let them have it. And but they don't want to make that a policy. They don't want to do it a total about face where they go, nope, we refreeze it with sanctions. They're just like, hey, maybe you guys can just like help us out a little bit and not let them spend it. But of course, leadership of Hamas is rumored to be in Qatar or Qatar or whatever you say these days. Old salty Jimmy. I went to get the kid on the way back from school on Friday, and he's like, did you hear I was in Israel? I was like, nope. And I was like, when did you get back? I was like, 2 a.m. that morning. I'm like, oh, okay. It's like he was in Tel Aviv and checking stuff out. And
Jesus.
Yeah, it's he said it's not going great. I don't want to speak out of school. That might be classified information, but he said not that pretty. Believe it or not, there's rockets being fired. Yeah. All right, but let me pull this up. So, so one thing that's going on right now is at first the attack happened on Israel, and everyone, of course, was just like, this is horrendous stuff. And then Israel said, okay, we respond now, which was, they're like, this is war, like an act of war has come to us, and now we're going to end this war with force, and it's war. It's time to kill, and of course that has also been ugly. War is ugly. War is hell, and so now both sides are spinning. There's a lot of like mainstream kind of Western media that really likes the Palestinians more than Israelis, it seems. And then it's been like that for a while, but at least when you're talking about like non-combat times where it's the state of Gaza, the state of the Palestinian people, and you go, okay, I could see maybe why you go, these poor people, like this sucks. But in this, it was, these guys rolled in and they were just like killing women and children. And then, like, when the bombs start dropping on, like, Hamas areas, obviously innocents were killed. But the news articles would talk about the dead children or civilians that were kind of collateral damage. And like, yes, that's bad. But the Hamas literally like went in and targeted women and children. It's both death. It's both not good, but it ain't the same.
Well, and Hamas is strategically placing storage areas where women and children are.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? I wanted to find that clip. I totally forgot. No, you're absolutely, yeah. And that's kind of what they do. And they've spent like most of the aid money that they've been getting over the years. They put a lot of it into this tunnel structure that's below Gaza, the terrorist tunnel or whatever. And so they have running water in the tunnels. They have electricity in the tunnels. Even though they've not provided any drinkable water to people in Gaza, to the Palestinians. That's why they have to get their water from Israel, because there's a nice aquifer there, but they mismanaged it and basically put sewage into the aquifer. And so now, like, instead of having nice, beautiful, clean drinking water that you just need a well for, which they've also outlawed wells. Yeah, so Hamas says, Palestinian person over here, you cannot have a well. Y'all can't dig a well and have your own water. You must get it from whatever. And at some point, people, who was it? Oh, some country, maybe it's the UN or something, but some country sent a bunch of pipes over. So it's like, hey, time to build a water system. Let's do this. Look at all these nice, beautiful pipes, 6-inch pipes and all this kind of stuff. And so they made videos of how they would shave down the pipes and everything and build missiles out of them.
and the launchers too.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. And it's just like, okay, so you could have had water by now, but you just turned it into weapons. And like, you could have had a power generation, electric facility, but you turned it into tunnels and weapons. And then, like, of course, you got Hamas leadership, some Hamas leadership that's in a whole different nation. But yeah, it's been an open secret for years that, like, under hospitals, under elementary schools, like all that, the president of Israel, not to be confused with the prime minister, so not Netanyahu, but whatever the hell the guy's name is, he was giving this press conference, and someone was asking about, this was right when they shut off. So at some point, Israel shut off all the power and water because they're just like, hey, if y'all are attacking us from this area and we provide you with all the things, if we're at war, we're not going to provide you with your water and power anymore. And people were saying, well, that's a war crime, which I tend to disagree. They say that, like, well, if you make the citizens suffer collectively as a response, as opposed to going after the military assets or whatever, like, that's a war crime and all that. But it's like, in my view, if I have something to sell, like water or power, and someone goes, can I buy that? I can say no, And if I go, yeah, you can buy it. You can buy it, Charlie. Have some water. You're like, cool. And then you spit in my eye. Your mother's a whore. I'm like, well, I don't think I'm going to sell you my water anymore. You go, come on. It's like, I got money. I'm like, yeah, I'm just not going to do it, Charlie.
Plus, when has war not gone after main access of resources?
I mean, when we're talking about it as a siege, like, this is horrible. It's a siege. It's like, right, siege is actually a warfare term. That's what you do. And it's actually, the goal of a siege typically is to get people to surrender so you don't have to murder everyone. You try to get the people to turn against the government. Like, this is stupid. Just, we'll go with the Vikings or whoever. And granted, it still has ended in bloodshed number of times in the past. But anyway, it was after that. So the president was being asked about this in terms of war crimes. And so at some point, they were talking about, striking houses, all that. He's like, when there are missiles, when there are missiles in the goddamn kitchen, and that's what he said. He's like, the goddamn kitchen. He's like, if you tell me that a missile fires from your kitchen, that I'm not allowed to fire back. You fire at my family from your kitchen, and you're telling me that's not a military place? It's like, that's. But I was sitting there, he was getting mad at me. He's like, the goddamn kitchen. I was like, dang, President cursing. And like the God curse, But it's true. They do all that. But so anyway, so now now we have, warring narratives. Of course, everyone's the victim and all that, and everyone's the good guy. So we got this story out of the.
When it's like every response. So like, it's like, okay, Hamas, did you have to go that far? And then it's like, Israel, okay, did you have to go that far? And like, what's next?
Well, and it's, if you listen to Israel, and like they seem to have content to back it up as evidence. Of course, in this day and age, audio and video content, it's hard to find it to be sufficient, especially when it's like a government providing it to a news source to prove that they're good people, Right. But like years ago, there was a tape of an Israeli soldier. So typically what they would do is say there's a normal attack, Hamas fired some missiles, right? And so they're like, all right, it's coming from this building. And that building is, of course, also an apartment complex. So what they do is they know everyone that lives there, because all their technology and espionage and all that kind of crud, all the normal government stalking stuff. So what they do is they'd contact people in the building and they'd say, get out, get out. We're going to bomb there. That's a Hamas installation. So they had this, and sometimes they'd have knock bombs where it was just a dud missile that would like land. And then it's like people go, oh, next one's not going to just knock, but they have this audio of this special forces guy or whatever talking to this Palestinian. And he's like, I need you to go around and evacuate the building. In 20 minutes, we're going to be launching missiles there. There's Hamas is there, and we need to take out the facility. And the guy's like, I need more than 20 minutes. I need hours. And he's like, well, no, there's not hours. We got 20 minutes. We just need you to evacuate the building, and because we don't want anybody to die. And it's like, well, I'm not going to do that. It's like if the children have to die, they die. And he's like, oh, no, please, brother. No, we don't want that. It's like, well, let's get everyone out. Let's get all the innocents out. And he's like, this will show the world your brutality. Like, if you have to drop the bomb, but you will kill children, you will kill women, and then we will show the world your brutality, and because of that, it'll be fine. And so, they got this audio and so like, assuming it's real, it does appear that more often than not in typical strikes outside of the sort of massive thing, that they try to give notice to Palestinians, like, your building's about to be. I mean, it doesn't help to have your home wiped out. Like, cool, I got out with my life, but it would have been cool if you didn't destroy my house. So it seems like they take precautions to attempt to minimize civilian death.
It's the thought that counts.
It's the thought that counts, yeah. And in this, I know they say they've been doing the same thing where, like, they've been saying evacuate. Everyone in these areas, evacuate. And Hamas has been saying, ignore the dirty Jew. Like, they're not, they don't know what's up. Stay. And so, been conflicting things, leadership says. And then a road to... And so then at some point they turned water and power back on in southern Gaza. And so like, look, just go to southern Gaza. Like, you don't need to go to Israel or Egypt. Just go to southern Gaza. Like, we're not bombing there. And so people started like loading up, and they go, and during this time we won't bomb these roads at all. And so people started loading up in cars. And so Gaza took big old trucks and blocked the roads so nobody could get through. And so, or Hamas blocked the roads so no one can get through. And so it's like, okay, what? It seems like your goal is getting everybody killed, which I do think, Scott Horton, I retweeted something he did the other week. He runs antiwar.com. He's a pretty sharp guy when it comes to some of the Middle East conflict stuff. And like, he had I think a family friend or relative who, like, she was somebody that would help Palestinians, like provide them aid and I think help them get resources and all that. And that was kind of her life's dedicated work. She got killed by Hamas. And so, but anyway, he was talking about, this is ugly and what they're doing is terrorism, but, terrorism has a goal. What's the goal? And like, yeah, they do that. They're doing this because they want a response. What's the response they want? are you giving them that response? What comes from there? And I think, especially when you consider people that can hide underground, you get a lot of leadership in different countries, and then you have these people, and that's martyrdom is sacred. It's a good, like, martyrdom is positive, and so it's just like, all right, the more Palestinians that get killed by Israelis, the more likely they are to be able to enlist help from Lebanon, Iran, maybe talk Egypt into it, maybe get, Saudis have been a little warmer with Iran, maybe you can get the Saudis involved, or at least the Saudis not to oppose. So you can bring in these other forces from around and perhaps get a nice, surround Israel. And so, U.S. will get involved, of course, but there's Ukraine to deal with and probably Taiwan soon. And, if you can get enough people in there, then maybe you can get Israel to say, fine, we leave. It's all Palestine now. Or maybe, between all those forces, they get a chance to just, take it out without surrender, from the river to the sea. Which, man, I've been seeing like little kids, like high schoolers and stuff, chanting that in school, like doing the little protest from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. I don't know if they understand that means like genocide, or the very least, literally everyone just picking up and walking out of a country, which is not going to happen. So you're talking about killing every non-Muslim, non-Palestinian from the river to the sea, which is the whole country. It's really hard. Oh, and these protests. So like that one at least has a clever chant, where you go, all right, you don't understand. Like you just think, oh, they'll be free in the whole land. It's like, that's not what that means. But
it rhymes, yay.
Yeah, it rhymes. And like, it's like, oh, I want to be free everywhere. It's like, yeah, I mean, that's not what it means. But you can understand why someone uninformed could think that it's a nice thing, right? In Sydney, Australia, when they're chanting, gas the Jews, that was pretty on the nose, like it doesn't seem like they're looking for peace. And then when they had like swastika flags and stuff, and it's just like, all right, you're showing up with swastikas, chanting gas the Jews, and we're supposed to see you as a good guy? Like it's difficult. It's hard to play the victim while chanting genocide is good, but here we are, and that's what they do. So this article here from the Algeminer, a top leader of the Palestinian terrorist organization Hamas.
Well done.
Thank you. I just snotted a little bit there. Hamas pointedly refused to apologize for the group's October 7th program in southern Israel, intimating his willingness to sacrifice vast numbers of people in the service of his cause. Nations are not easily liberated. Khalid Mashal, the former chairman of Hamas and one of the leading figures based abroad, told the Saudi broadcaster Al Arabiya in an interview, the Russians sacrificed 30 million people in World War II in order to liberate it from Hitler's attack. The Vietnamese which, by the way, I mean, they were like Iran loved Hitler, like the Shah of Iran. Like, I'm pretty sure that's why they went from Persia to Iran, because it means Aryan. There's like, I love that guy. And so anyway, so to be like, hey, they had to liberate Russia from the Nazis. It's like, you were rooting for the other team. Anyway, the Vietnamese sacrificed 3.5 million people until they defeated the Americans. Afghanistan sacrificed millions of martyrs to defeat the USSR and then the US. The Algerian people sacrificed 6 million martyrs over 130 years. The Palestinian people are just like any other nation. No nation is liberated without sacrifices. Let's see. So he was the undisputed leader in Hamas when it won the majority of seats in 2006 and then led to a civil war, yada, yada, yada. Let's see. This had something else good in it. Yeah, they tried to assassinate. Israel actually successfully poisoned him, and so he was dying. And then the U.S. and Jordan was just like, give him the antidote. You can't assassinate the leader of the political party that has been elected to rule Palestine. So Israel was fine. Here's the antidote. And so he didn't die.
Pouting in the corner.
Fine. Poison them next time, I guess. So he was asked about what they've been doing and whether Hamas should apologize for atrocities. With all due respect, your question, forgive me for saying this, apologies should be demanded from Israel. You asked me a question, I am answering it with clarity. Hamas does not kill civilians on purpose. It focuses on the soldiers, period, is what he said. Which, that sentence we'll revisit in a minute. Hamas does not kill civilians on purpose. So a question about Hezbollah is the Lebanese front is now on fire, and we are grateful for that. Whether it's done by the Lebanese, by Palestinians, or by anyone, Hezbollah has an active role there. Those clashes in the South Lebanon are good and support our cause, but the scope of the battle, when the title is Al-Aqsa Flood, and when the heinous crime is perpetrated against Gaza, greater things are needed, certainly. But we should not single out Lebanon and Hezbollah. And then he called out to Egypt. Let's talk about the countries bordering with Israel. The great Egypt that has waged large wars. Today, the Egyptians are boiling with anger. We salute the Egyptian people, and we want more. I demand a more powerful position by Egyptian leaders, he declared. And then when he was asked about hostages, he said, before talking about prisoners held by us, there are prisoners held by the enemy. There were 5,500 of them, and now they number 10,000. Every day, Israel arrests 100, 200, or 1,000 from the West Bank. The rule we follow is that prisoners are swapped for prisoners, he continued. We took over 1,000 prisoners in exchange for Gilad Shalit, an Israeli soldier kidnapped in 2011. Today, we have in our hands dozens of soldiers and officers. Inshallah, we will use them to empty the Israeli prisons, and all our sons and daughters from all the factions will be released, inshallah. Which is weird that they translate everything but inshallah. You know, like, I don't know, it's like God willing. Like, that's what it means. Like, God willing, you know, or if it's God's will or something like that. But you'd think, I mean, like, for them just to, like, leave that one word in there, I don't know. I find it weird. I don't know if there's any great meaning to it, but maybe everyone knows what it means now or something. I don't know. But anyway, so that guy is just like, look, we don't kill civilians. We only kill soldiers. That's what we do. Hamas only kills soldiers. So, you know, yeah, of course, we've got some prisoners of war, and they've got prisoners of war, as opposed to, like, we have grandmothers and stuff. You know, it's like, oh, they're all prisoners of war we got. It's just normal. No big deal. No big deal. Hamas does not target civilians. So, there was some documents pulled off of some of the cats that did the big invasion, you know, Hamas or Hamas friendly or whatever. But documents exclusively obtained by NBC News show that Hamas created detailed plans to target elementary schools and a youth center in the Israeli kibbutz of Kfar Saad to kill as many people as possible, seize hostages, and quickly move them to the Gaza Strip. The attack plans, which are labeled top secret in Arabic, appear to be orders for 2 highly trained Hamas units to surround and infiltrate villages and target places where civilians, including children, gather. Israeli soldiers are determining the death toll in the kibbutz. But yeah, they're found on the bodies of Hamas terrorists by Israeli first responders and shared with the news. Can you scroll down to that map? Are you looking at it?
Yep.
Yeah, so that's kind of what the plan looks like. And yeah, it's got, it says Combat Unit 1 is directed to contain the new Da'at school, while Combat Unit 2 is to collect hostages, search the B'nai Akiva Youth Center, search the old Da'at school. I don't know how to pronounce any of this stuff.
Doing all right.
All right, cool. Well, look at me. Another page level top secret maneuvers described a plan for Hamas unit to secure the east side, while a second unit controls the west. It says kill as many as possible and capture hostages. Other orders include surrounding the dining hall and holding hostages in it. So,
like conflicting directions.
It's almost like the guy's not being honest. It's like they instructed all the people on the ground to go after civilians and take hostages and kill them. And he goes, no, we would never do that. It's like, it looks like you did. It's like, no, we didn't do that. It's a good old, wasn't me. No, didn't happen. I mean, of course, we saw it happen. But they're like, oh, it's incidental, I guess. Man, did you see the stupid thing on like Twitter and everything? Like, first there was a report about, forget what. Like, it was like, oh, 40 babies have been killed, some beheaded. And some people simplified that into 40 babies have been beheaded. And so then there was this, like, fight on whether 40 babies were beheaded or just killed and not beheaded. And it's like, what are we talking about? Like, I get that beheading is a lot worse. Are we all able to agree that maybe a couple babies were beheaded? But if not, 40 babies were killed, like murdered. That's bad no matter what, right? Like, it's not good to murder babies. And I'm not even talking about the pro-life argument here. I mean, they're born. They're babies. You know? They're babies. They exist.
Splitting hairs over how it was done.
Yeah, because like it would come out of these stories about, you know, they were attempting to desecrate bodies. There was another video clip that came out once again from Israel. So, you know, grain of salt and all that. And I don't know the language. So that's the other thing. I got to trust the translations. But it's a Hamas guy being interviewed by Israel. Like, he's been captured and he's being grilled. And the guy's like, why did you take women and children? And he's like, to have our way with them. Or first, I don't want to talk. He's like, you're going to talk. He's like, to have our way with them. He's like, what does that mean? He goes, to dirty them, to rape them. And it's like, okay. So it's like you took the women and children to rape them in order to dirty them, to desecrate their bodies, you know? And so I was just like, yeah. And like, it's difficult, you know, of course, when one side's releasing not propaganda or whatever. But all indications point to that being true because, I mean, we looked at the number of like 20-something-year-old women, and then they drove. I mean, there's videos that Hamas released online that showed, you know, young women's corpses. But, yeah, look at her. And like, you know, in states of disrobe. There's a video of a woman that was like getting, I think, pushed into a vehicle or maybe moved from one vehicle to the other. And she was bleeding, you know, down below where it appears that she had been raped already. And, you know, through her clothes and everything. And so, you know, like, all indications say that this is true. I mean, and just gut reaction. You get a bunch of dudes. Like, I'm not going to say, let's just say, any raid of a town in histories of war, you know, whether it's the Mongols or what have you, like when kind of an old-fashioned raid where you're going after women, children, everything, what do the guys do with the women? I mean, over and over again. That's why everyone's related to Genghis Khan, you know, because he did a lot of raping. And he had his harem, too, but also a lot of raping. So, and Kublai Khan was not all that much better. So that kind of conflicts with the dude a little bit. And then this one just popped up today. This is not a happy article. This is from the Daily Mail, or I just saw it today. What is it, October 20th? What's today? Today, 22nd. Okay, so it's from Friday. This woman from Jersey moved to Israel 20 years ago. Let's see. A volunteer who works in a military base morgue, cleaning the bodies of mutilated Israeli soldiers before they're buried, says the brutality of Hamas massacre of innocents is worse than the Holocaust. Cherie has the grim task of pulling mutilated corpses from the body bags that are lined up on stretchers at the morgue at the Shura military base near Tel Aviv before preparing them as best she can for funerals. The architect and mother of four told Mail Online, I heard stories about Auschwitz as a child growing up in Jersey. But what I've seen here with my own eyes is worse than the Holocaust. Let's see. So basically, she volunteered so she could like clean females' bodies and for burial. And she said in part to prevent young people from having to see the horrors, and also to make sure that you know the women soldiers could have a proper burial and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, she said, we wash bodies and prepare them for burial. We try to bring them dignity in death. But let's see. But what these barbarians did to these people is beyond words. There's evidence of mass rape so brutal that they broke their victims' pelvis. Women, grandmothers, children. I volunteered to prepare the bodies of murdered women to give them respect they deserve. I'm a mother from New Jersey. I moved to Israel 20 years ago. I'm a normal person. I've never expected to be confronted by what I've seen. Peoples whose heads have been cut off. Women standing in their night dresses, woken up and shot. Faces blasted off. Heads smashed and their brains spilling out. A baby was cut out of a pregnant woman and beheaded, and then the mother was beheaded. So, yeah, women and children burned to charcoal. So anyway, that is a report from somebody who's cleaning bodies, and it's, seeing that kind of stuff, it's, it's hard I don't see how people can, I see how people go, well, the Palestinians aren't Hamas, which is true. I mean, they elected them, but they haven't had an election again in years, and odds are, I think there's reports that even though they still poll with like 50 to 70% support in the region, a lot of people are just like, yeah, support them, because you don't know if you're going to get clipped, Right. So you can't really stand up against them too strongly. Excuse me. That's, just another story that kind of stands in opposition to the we don't target civilians narrative. That was a rough one. Could you imagine?
It just seems like I would just wish people would understand that Hamas is treating the Palestinian people like cattle.
Yes. Yeah, not even cattle at least gets eaten at some point,
right.
Like killed for food like that. They're pawns. They're just stuck, and their job is to be martyred. And they're not choosing to be martyred. Most of them, but they're not given a choice. And it's just difficult because, whatever you want to say about Israel, it's not like Hamas has ever been anything different in terms of honesty or whatever. I don't think we need to pull up the article, but do you remember last week the bombing at the hospital? So first came out, Hamas said Israel's bombed a hospital, 500 civilians and children are dead. And so everyone's like, oh, that's messed up. And a lot of people like Rashida Tlaib, who's, elected official in our government, and some of that kind of Ilhan Omar, they're like, this is disgusting. Israel bombing a hospital. We should not support Israel. We should, all this stuff. They came out really strong against what happened. And then Israel started looking at it, and they're just like, that's not our rocket. And they're like, we have video of it from 3 different angles, and you can watch all these missiles being launched from Palestine, and one just duds out and falls down. And then the next morning, find out it didn't even land on the hospital. It landed on the parking lot next to the hospital, which I'm sure some people died. I'm sure, some windows got blasted out and stuff like that. And that was the other thing. It was Israelis were just like, we leave massive craters. That, which I think is a fair point. If we would have hit, you would notice, this, there's no crater. We blew out some windows. Cars are still there. So they're just like, no, our bombs go boom. This one went, psh. And so it's one of those things where, a thing happens and just right away it's just disinformation. And you just sit back and I think what you have to do is wait to see how things shake out, because everybody just floods in with BS, and then you got to try to filter through the responding BS. But with that one, people are still trying to push it here and there. It's just oh, that didn't happen. It just straight up didn't happen, But once again, kind of like the decapitated babies, it was we should fight about this on the internet for a while. And some people just dig in. It's just I'm just digging in. This is what happened. I know it's what happened. It's you weren't there. And then once again, released by Israelis. But they they monitor lots of things, if you can imagine that. And so there's this conversation that they grabbed, and these two dudes talking, and they're just like, hey, did you hear the hospital got struck? And like, no, he's like, yeah. He's like, it was one of ours. He called it the, what do you call it? Islamist Jihad. He's like, it's from the side of Islamist Jihad. And it's like, what? He's like, are you sure? And he's like, yeah, they said they looked at the shrapnel. It's local shrapnel. It's ours. It's ours. Like, oh, at a hospital. Oh my God. And so he's like, what? Where was it? And he's like, it was fired from the cemetery that's next to the hospital. He's like, there's a cemetery next to the hospital? He's like, yes, if you go in, it's kind of over there on the right. And like, oh, yes, the cemetery. I know the cemetery. He's like, so the missiles, so it launched there? Yes, it launched there. And then, and so it was one of those things like in this conversation, they're talking about shooting missiles from a cemetery and hospital, which is technically a war crime. And the two, they're just like, yep, that was ours. Like, oh no, like that's not good. It's like, yeah, it's not good. But like the casual nature in which they were discussing it, like to the point where like, man, so we accidentally hit our own hospital. Damn, it's like, it was shot from where? It's like, I don't even know that place. Oh, I do know that place. I do know that place.
It's like they're having coffee.
Yeah, exactly. Just having coffee. Like, the cemetery, the cemetery where we keep the missiles next to the hospital. It's like, oh, yes, I do know it. I know it. Yeah. Let me see. But it's, I don't even think I want to go into that. But of course, everything's escalating. And, just, I guess before moving to escalation, I've been trying to think about this, right? So we know this Hamas invasion happened. We know that they definitely targeted civilians, and they definitely killed a lot of them, and then they definitely took hostages. You can conflate whether there's, people can talk about morality and all that kind of stuff if they want to, but we know these things happened, right? So you're Israel, you're a country, and all of a sudden this nasty attack happens, right? And it's from a group who openly calls for your destruction. They say, we want Israel to not exist. We want everyone to die. Give us our land back or die. Either way, we're happy. And now they're attacking and going after civilians specifically, not just like launching explosives, not aiming at military targets, but, actively taking down the defenses in a very coordinated attack. Like, it was very well done and brutal. What do you do? Because I know it's tough. Like, they're bombing the crap out of Gaza and people, and, we know things are hidden in residential areas. But like, for real, like, if you're a country, like, so even with peace as the goal, self-defense is okay. Like, self-defense is required. Like, if anything, one of the purposes of having a government is to defend the people of that nation against attacks from, domestic or foreign. So you got this area that is kind of like its own country. It's not, but it kind of is. And it's essentially declared war on you and gone and killed thousands. Which, by the way, have you heard the per capita thing that people have been doing? A lot of right-wing people like Ben Shapiro have been doing this, and I think it's stupid. They go, this many people died in the attack, but, per capita, if it was as many people in Israel as America, it would have been like 40,000 people dead. So it would have been more than died in 9/11. And it's just like, well, that's not how that works. You don't kill per capita. Like, I understand with, like, the flu, why you might say, like...
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Why would you...
Yeah,
how do those correlate?
Well, I don't know, because that's the thing. Like with COVID, when they do it, and they're like, "Well, this many people died in North Dakota, but if there's only 12 people in North Dakota, so it took out a bunch of the population." So you go, okay, so it's not that North Dakota had no cases; it's just that there's not too many people there.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
And so that makes sense, but this makes no sense. They go, well, if you look at it per capita, it's like this many people died. It's like, no, it was bad. It's bad enough. You don't have to like say it's like 40,000 people died. The actual number of thousands that died is sufficient, Like, I don't get it. I think it's kind of Republicans, love fundraising stuff off of support for Israel, and so sometimes I think it's just their way of being like it's even worse. It's worse than 9/11, and people in America might be like, well, I don't know if it is. I don't know if it's worse than 9/11. A lot of people died in 9/11, so it's I don't know. It's stupid. But anyway, my point is, so you respond, and you know that in the past you've responded kind of casually. Well, not casually, but rock it in, rock it out. And then that's just that. And then that's kind of, you go, okay. But clearly that's not been working. Clearly they've been chilling for 2 years. Do I have it in here? Let me see. I don't think I do. Well, maybe. In one of these articles, it just talked about how Hamas decided a while ago to take years to pretend that their focus was going to be on water and getting passes so they can go into Israel to work and all that kind of stuff, to focus on the life of the Palestinians, water, power, being able to work, and free transport. But that was all BS. They were just pretending that was their focus while they're planning this massive attack. Okay, so you know, assuming that's true, I mean, it appears to be true just because it was a massive attack that occurred. So, like, assuming that you've been trying to, like, nibble around the edges this whole time, and it's kind of been fine, you intercept, you do a thing, it's largely fine. Death happens every now and then. But something like this happens, how do you respond to protect your citizens, to defend your country, without just, without doing what they're doing right now? Without just bombing the crap out of Gaza and like going, like we're gonna go until they're gone. Like I don't know what else one does.
Yeah, look at like the one shoulder that's like, well, that's extreme, and it's like, well, if I was in the country, I would want that.
Yeah, and like if someone, you think about like just I don't know, say next door there's a drug house or something, a house full of ne'er-do-wells, right? And they're up all the time doing meth and, I don't know, tattooing Satan on their forehead or something. but like, and you're just, you're always like, hey, keep your beer cans off my yard. They throw them in, you throw them back or whatever. Maybe get them written up by the city. Then one day they come in and, they kill your family. And you're just like, and, I know that my instinct, my rage and all that would tell me, like, what I should do is kill everyone in that house, in a brutal way, just burn them inside, lock them inside, and just kill them all. And, like, is that good? No. It's not good. But they're all, like, I'm at this point, like, there's been death. It's like we're out to kill you. And so it's like, okay, what do I just call the city and hope something happens? Maybe they all get arrested somehow, but they go, oh, no one saw. There's no, like, what happens? It's just like, how do you respond? And I don't know. I don't know how, like, war sucks, and I hate the violence. I hate the stories of the Palestinian people, like, losing their homes, losing their children. They're writing children's names on their legs now, just in case they get separated in the hospital or whatever, that maybe they can get matched back up later. And, like, it's all horrible, I just don't know. Like, if you're Israel and Hamas is holding the entire Palestinian people hostage and going, better not respond or, we'll kill our people, it's, I don't know how else you could go about it, And, like, it seems like, trying to drive the populace south so they can bomb the hell out of up north seems like not a bad strategy, Of course, then Hamas says, no, you don't get to go south. And so,
yeah, at least they're trying.
Yeah, and, like, war is brutal. Like, war is brutal, and it's just, I just don't. Yeah, I've been trying to think of, like, what's the, what is the peaceful way to go about this? And I just don't think. Excuse me. I don't know. I mean, what do you?
I think the definition of peace is changed in not just 2023, but as of recent.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because I just don't know. I mean, like, what the hell do you do? Like, what's the peaceful response to like where someone goes, no, we just think all of your people should be dead, and they're calling for around the globe, and like people are, like, do you see these stories of like Jewish people in America and all their countries getting harassed, getting assaulted, getting all this stuff, and people are the Hamas and some of these other people like Hamas are like, yeah, everyone around the world, like, come on, like it's time to do this. And
Friday the 13th.
yeah, when they were like the Day of Rage, which ended up being nothing. They didn't even wear their hockey masks. But yeah, it's just like I don't know how you come up with a peaceful negotiation with that. And if someone says no, it's just if you go to someone and say, let's not fight, let's compromise, and they go, my compromise is I kill you. And you go, listen, let's not do that. Let's compromise. Figure out how to make it work best for me or best for us. They go, well, best for me is I kill you. Best for me is you and your family's dead. And I'm going to go ahead and do that. And you go, look, I just don't want to do that. And then they pull out a knife and stab you. It's like, well, you shoot them. You shoot them in the face. And like, is that peaceful? No. Is it good? Probably not. But like, what the hell are you going to do? Just sit there and wait for him to stab you again?
Right. It's kind of, it's natural human reaction. So this is just a group of human reaction.
Yeah, and like at this level, it is. I mean, it's war. Like it's war. Like that's what they declare war. We're gonna finish it, and everyone's like, well, don't go too hard. It's like, I mean, how hard?
Right.
It's war. How hard does one go?
Yeah, what is that?
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest problems with contemporary wars, probably starting in Vietnam. Is this idea of trying to wage a nice war. I think it's crueler in the long run. I mean, how long, Iraq and Afghanistan, like first time we went to Iraq, we didn't take out Saddam because we said, we don't want, we've got Kuwait, like we got him out of Kuwait. We don't have to take out Saddam. And probably part of it was like, he kind of keeps Iran in check and all that sort of calculus. But it was like, oh, peaceful. We just left. And then, later, Saddam's like, all right, I'm going to still do my thing, Now, granted, the second time we went in, he hadn't done anything the second time we went in other than, like, killing his people like he normally did. But as far as things to the U.S., like the whole weapons of mass destruction thing didn't really work out. But, we took him out and, we went to Afghanistan. We did that, but we didn't want to have a mean war. We wanted to have a nice war, which involves staying there for 20 years and like constantly like occupying people's land and like having soldiers walk around with guns. Like, don't worry, we're being nice now, occasionally killing people. And it's like, that's the nice way to do it is just slow. Like we slowly bleed, they slowly bleed. Like everyone's just slowly bleeding. It's like, I don't know. I think like, just mean ass warfare, and then you're done. Like that's the thing. Hard, extreme warfare. Like open the gates of hell, and then close them.
Yeah,
it's
quick.
Like kill as many people and destroy as many things until your enemy loses the will to fight, and then stop fighting them. I mean, like Japan is an ally now. Like we dropped nuclear bombs on that country, and like. We wrecked that place for a while, and now I'm not saying it's a good thing or all's well that but all's well that ends well to a certain degree. Like after things kind of settled and things progressed, we're not fighting. We're not in a state of elevated tension. Like it's just that was the thing and it's over. It's a Germany. Like yeah, Germany went pretty hard in the paint there. And but afterwards, rebuilding, it's over. We don't go, don't you think about it, Germany? Germany's just like, look, we don't like talking about the 40s. That's
we've moved on.
Yeah, like, we've moved. Let's not talk about the 40s. Like we were, it was a Family Guy. Like what happened to these? We were on vacation. The whole country was on vacation. Oh man, I just remembered the Nazi in Canada getting the standing ovation. That was Still good. Well, I guess to end on something not as dark. It was 2 weeks ago that Matt Gaetz did his big play to get, I was about to call him Kevin Bacon, Kevin McCarthy out. I think I'm going to prefer to call him Kevin Bacon. So McCarthy...
He's probably connected to Kevin Bacon.
I mean, 6 degrees. Probably is. I mean, he's from California. Did you hear that Kevin Bacon, like, he has this house in, like, the Northeast somewhere. It was, like, this farm, the haunted thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the guy didn't want to sell it to him, so it's like, you have to tear down this house because I'm worried about you being possessed. And so he's like, okay. So he tore down the haunted house on his property in order to close on the deal. But maybe the ghosts are still there. Maybe Kevin Bacon is possessed, you know? That's why he's done so many movies. Driven by the devil. Anyway. So, Matt Gaetz' big play. He got Kevin McCarthy out. And so then people are like, well, who's going to be the speaker? And so then Steve Scalise, who was like the number 2, he's like, I'll jump in there. And then a lot of the more, I guess, the Freedom Caucus type people, they're like, we want Jim Jordan. And Jim Jordan in the past was like, I don't want to be speaker. But finally he's like, all right, okay. And so they go in, they're like, we're going to vote behind closed doors to see who our nominee is, and then we'll have a real vote because we don't want to look like idiots again. So they go, and Steve Scalise gets the most votes, but not enough votes, right? It's still fairly split. And so they're talking about, like, okay, what do we do? How do we unify this? And at some point, Scalise is like, you know what? I don't see me getting the votes. I'm going to step down. We'll just Jim Jordan. Okay? And so Jim Jordan is somebody that, like, he's Freedom Caucus, so, like, the, he had Trump's endorsement, and so there's a lot of I don't know what to even call them, the more right-wing or something of the Republican Party. They really like him. The moderates don't, because he's associated a lot with Trump and with, just with Trump and with being a pain in the ass, basically. And so these moderates are in, like, purple districts where they go, I need to win re-election. These 2-year terms are not a joke. And so he has 20 Republicans go against him the first time, so he didn't get the speakership. 22 the next time, didn't get the speakership. That fan's drying me out. And then on the third go, he lost even more votes. And so he stepped down. And so now they're going into it again, and they have like 5 people that have thrown their hats into the ring, and they still don't know how it's going to shake out. There is, let me see, I got a whole list. This is out of order. It's going to be second to last tab there, the who's in. I found that some of these, like Reuters and stuff, they don't let you read their articles, but if you go through MSN, you can read them for some reason. Yeah, I dislike it because MSN kind of sucks, but I want to read the articles for free. I don't want to pay for them. All right, so some guy named Kevin Hearn of Oklahoma. So he's chairman of the Conservative Republican Study Committee, largest caucus in Congress. He's in, never heard of him. Austin Scott, Georgia lawmaker, who kept a relatively low profile in 12 years, which probably means he's been making money. Damn. My throat is dry. Never heard of him. Austin Scott. That was the guy that was just making money. Pete Sessions, Texas congressman, who chairs the House Rules Committee. He's in. Jack Bergman of Michigan, a retired Marine Corps. Man, I'm dying here. And Tom Emmer is actually an interesting one. Never heard of him. He's from Minnesota, but he's the number 3 Republican and the chief vote counter. So he is already number 3. Kevin McCarthy has endorsed him. Former ice hockey coach. I don't know why that's relevant. But his strength in this, I think, is that he has a decent FreedomWorks score, which FreedomWorks is like a right-wing fundraiser. What's it called? And yeah, they write lots of articles and stuff. What the hell is it called? When you got places that just like come up with ideas and write articles and try and inform policy. Think tank.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. Sorry, I got there eventually. I was like, it's a thinky thing. Anyway, so they give scores to everybody based on their voting. All right. So, 100%, it means, you voted with freedom 100% of the time, according to them. And sometimes, I mean,
Voted with freedom.
yeah, well, for the most part, a lot of times, I'm in agreement with a lot of the stuff they say. They consider the authorization of force, the AUF, authorization for use of force, voting to continue that, they consider against freedom. So they say if you vote to continue that, the thing that lets us go around and play war in the Middle East for no reason because we're not at war with anybody, apparently. But so when you vote to authorize that, they go, well, that's a point in the wrong direction. So I like that. And so this guy has this session, he's 100% with them. Overall, he's 84%. By comparison, Kevin McCarthy was 72% overall, something like that. And so I think he's got a score where the Freedom Caucus type people could be like, okay, look, we've got a guy that's more on the freedom side. He's got no name recognition. No one knows who the hell he is. So the moderates can say he's a moderate guy. He's been the number 3 in charge. He's a good guy, blah, blah, blah. So I think he's an interesting one that could actually be this dark horse that gets there that no one saw coming because no one thought this would happen. And then Byron Donalds is an interesting one. I don't really care about everyone else, but Byron Donalds is from Florida. He's where is he from? I don't know, but he's one of the few black Republicans, and he's only been in office for maybe one session or something, just a couple of years. He's how I found out that Congress people have a basketball league. The U.S. House of Representatives is like summer camp for lawyers. They have basketball leagues and baseball leagues and all this stuff. He posted this thing one time where he was doing an interview, and so suit, tie, and all that stuff. Where he's wearing basketball shorts because he said he was in the middle of a game, and someone's like, "Hey, Fox or somebody wants to interview you. You have a couple minutes." He's like, "Oh yeah." So he runs to his locker, puts on a tie and a shirt, and just sits down to do the interview. I was just like, "Wait, you were playing basketball in the middle of the day? It's a work day, But I'm dying. Okay. Anyway, they're going to probably vote this time. Maybe something will happen. I don't know. Excuse me. All right, we're going to just end this because I'm dying. But like and subscribe, please, before I die. Charlie, what do you got?
I don't have anything.
Please, like us, or I'll die. Bye. That's it.